the programme that examines how you make music in a rock band. And in this series, we're going to be looking at synthesizers and keyboards and how new technology has changed the face and the sound of modern music.
We'll also be looking at a vital part of any band's sound, which is often underrated by musicians just starting out: the lead and harmony vocals. The voice, after all, is an instrument too, and to get it sounding good, you have to work on it.
But don't worry if you're a guitarist, a bassist, or even a drummer. We've got plenty of things to interest you too. Rock School, after all, is as much about playing in a band as looking at individual instruments. And we're going to be examining how the addition of the keyboards, the synthesizers, and vocals affects what we play on the drums, the bass, and the guitar.
Once again, we went out and talked to some of the world's leading players to pick up hints and tips on their approach to playing. Here are just a few of the faces that will be appearing in this new series of Rock School.
We're here.
When
you practice, you don't have headphones on. You're hearing a room.
You can actually get the things to hang over between the things, which is the other thing.
I couldn't imagine that I would ever need a memory.
It's about three and a half octaves. At a push on a good day.
Go on again, go on.
Have a bit of fun.
There actually isn't real music on the compact disc.
So let's get started with a closer look at some of these synths and keyboards. And the man with the daunting task of unravelling it all, our new recruit, the brilliant Alistair Gavin.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, brilliant wasn't quite the words used in rehearsal. Anyway, the noise I make comes from these instruments. For example, this synth gives me this great sound we heard in our opening piece. Or I can link up several synths via this sequencer to produce a sophisticated backing track at the touch of a button. Or I can faithfully reproduce chunks of sound called samples and play them just like you would any other machine, using this machine, a sampler.
Well, with all this new technology, some musicians have had to acquire the skills of programming and sequencing, just as you would do the more conventional techniques of fingering and coordination.
But it hasn't always been like this. Not so long ago, rock keyboards were limited by and large to the electric piano, the organ, one or two exotic additions like the clavinet, and of course the good old acoustic piano. Instruments which you didn't have to program, you just played.
But the most significant advance in electronic keyboards came with the synthesizer, a machine based on an experimental tradition going back to the early 1900s, but which only came into its own in rock music during the 60s and 70s.
The synthesizer is not strictly a keyboard instrument like the piano. Its keyboard is only a sound controller, and as such you can have other forms of controller like the guitar, bass or drums. And we're going to be looking at these later on in Rock School.
The keyboard was originally favoured by synth designers like Bob Moog and Alan Perlman because it was the easiest way of telling the synth which notes were being played. The keys act as switches, turning on or off the signals which produce the notes. From a playing point of view, synthesizers gave access to a whole new range of sounds and effects. But a major limitation of these early keyboards was their lack of touch sensitivity.
Touch sensitivity is an important way of creating expression on an instrument. Take the bass, for example. Now, if I pluck the string softly, it creates a quiet sound. As I pluck harder, the note gets louder. Now I can change the tone again by strumming with my nails like this. And by slapping and pulling the strings, I create a different effect again. sensitivity is common to guitar, bass, drums, and piano, as you'll hear in this next piece.
So, despite all the technological advances made in recent years, some musicians still prefer using the acoustic piano because of its versatility and expressiveness. Here's Richard Coles of the Communards.